first started writing, I really didn't like the business side of things. I just thought it should all be about the writing and all be about the book. But the reality is, if I'm trying to make a living as a published author, then that's a business activity. You can't separate making money from the arts from the business side of things. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, that's the reality. I wouldn't say an artist is a brand per se, but I think it's a really good approach to think of yourself as a unit of business. Now, just in the same way that a plumber or an electrician runs their own business, an artist is doing the same thing. They rely very heavily on business image and reputation and word of mouth. And if we focus on these things as artists, we're far more likely to get more work because people will see our image and be more inclined to hire us. So it's really actually quite a critical skill to know how to enhance your business image and to make yourself look more appealing to a producer or any potential person in the industry who might want to work with you. These things are critically important. They're the number one way that people who you've never met before can find out a little bit more about you and determine whether they'd like to make you an offer or take it any further from where they are. So not only do you need to have really professional looking materials, but you also have to be thinking of the overall objective, which is not just to be putting whatever you want to say on there. It's actually about making sure that what the producers and the people who can hire you want to read is available in your materials. Funnily enough, a lot of artists know a lot less about conduct and professionalism than they realise. It's very easy to think that your view of how you should behave and the way that you should communicate is right, when something like that seems to be fairly subjective. But actually there are many things that you can do which are quite objectively good or bad ways of conducting yourself. There are numerous ways of promoting a show. You can use social media, you can use traditional media, publicity, printed materials, posters, pamphlets, emails, mailing lists. There's just any number of them. And it's really important to understand which one's a good value, which one's a bad value, which ones are effective, which ones are not so effective. Basically, how to attract the best audience you possibly can. Putting together a good budget is one of the most important things you can do when you're putting on a show. So many productions lose money because they don't know how to manage their finances effectively. There's never any guarantee, but there are certainly steps that you can take to make sure that you minimize the potential to lose thousands of dollars that you can't afford to lose. A lot of artists don't know much about roles within the industry other than what they themselves are already doing. So actors know a lot about acting, but not necessarily much about producing or managing a venue. It's very easy to spend a lot of money on someone who offers a service who you could probably do without. So without knowing the impacts of all of those various people and how they influence your production, it's really difficult to make informed decisions as to who's worth working with and who's maybe more of a luxury if you can afford it. For better or for worse, there's actually more money in running an arts-based business than there is in being an artist. The people that I know who are making a full-time living from the arts are very rarely just artists and nothing else. They're usually people who are running some kind of business and very often offering some kind of service. Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a lot more work out there than we realise, and there's potential work that we can create. And one of the best things that you can do is look for parallel industries. So, for example, an actor can be an actor, but they can also do television commercials, or they can become a voice actor, or they could become an MC. Having a long-term strategy is probably the key way that you will make a career out of being an artist. It's all very well and good to put on a great show, but if you don't capitalize from the success of a popular show or a really top production that you're involved in, then unfortunately it can be a bit of a waste of time. So having a long-term goal and a long-term strategy to achieve that goal is really, really important. I've made the majority of my income from the arts for the last 4 years. I've worked in a number of different areas. I've worked as an editor, as a writer, as a producer, as a director, as a literary manager. Basically, I've worked in a lot of different areas and I have a very broad perspective of how the industry works. And as someone who runs a company and makes a living and has paid over $10,000 in the last 2 years to artists, I'm a pretty good person to speak to about how to make a career out of working in the arts industry.
We stopped at Water Street, that's what it said.